Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another episode of the GM's Chair. I am Sam, your host of the Rush Hockey Podcast, but I'm also joined by another MVP individual, Reid, who's going to be my co-host here on the GM's Chair. And today, we're going to get into some very not so exciting, but exciting news that could potentially be news at the end of the season. As you know, free agency is winding down and teams are getting close to the end of their limit in salary and they need to sign depth players. So we're going to get into some new signings that they have and some notable extensions that have been signed in the last couple days and weeks. Then we're going to discuss who we think is going to be at the top of the league of those stats. Because, let's be real, season stats are always very important, right? If you win the season, you win the playoffs. I'm just kidding. That's not how it works. But we're going to project who's going to be at the top of the points at the end of the season. And then we're going to go into our Stanley Cup favorites. And I'm going to tell you right now, regardless of the shirt that I'm wearing or regardless of the jersey that my co-host is wearing, we're going to have some reasonable picks that based off of what we've seen from the offseason. So without further ado, let's get started. Reid, I'm going to pass the mic over to you, and we're going to talk about some of these notable additions that teams have made to fill out their rosters.
Yeah, so Pittsburgh signed Sergei Murashov, and they also signed Braden Yeager. LA signed Carter George, and Vancouver signed Daniel Sprong. Those are the most recent entry-level contracts that were signed.
Out of all of those, I'll tell you right now, Daniel Sprong is probably the most notable one. And I think him going to Vancouver, that's a little bit of a surprise. I'm surprised that Detroit didn't retain his services. I mean, he's a pretty
Yeah,
good player. He can put
yeah,
the puck in the net. Where do you see potentially Vancouver utilizing a player like Sprong? Is second, third line maybe?
probably third line if I had to guess. I don't see him going much higher. Their team's just so good. I don't know. I don't know where I don't know who you would change him with on either of their top two lines.
Well, I mean, it's interesting to see that it took a long time for Sprong to be signed. The other players, I'm assuming, are notable for AHL depth. I don't really see those players filling out the rosters on their respective teams. So
Yeah,
we'll see what
correct.
happens. I mean, injuries happen throughout the year. Any one of those players that was just signed could be the notable difference in the season. You never know.
Very, very much so.
So let's get into the real nitty-gritty of why we have this episode, and it is because of those extensions. We had some notable names that needed to be signed by their teams, some going to arbitration and others potentially even just holding out waiting for a new contract. The most important name that we have heard in a long time was Martin Necas with the Carolina Hurricanes with the loss of Gensel and potentially moving pieces around their roster. Martin Necas was one player that was looking for a new contract. Can you tell us a little bit about that contract?
Yeah, so Martin signed a 2-year re-signing of his contract. It's valued at 13 million. His cap hit's going to be about 6.5, if I do believe so. I think it's a good contract for him. I think it's enough to put off him leaving anywhere, and I think it's a good sign. I think it's a good amount of money as well for
It
him and for Carolina.
it strikes me as more of a like a bridge deal to potentially
Yeah,
see if the next contract, because I mean he's a good player, but 6.5 to me was a reasonable amount that I thought maybe he would command on the market. It was that term that surprised me. That it was only 2 years. So maybe they're bridging him for potentially a better contract or maybe even a trade. Patrick Laine's name is still out there. I'm going to be skeptical and say that Patrick Laine might end up on the Carolina Hurricanes. So who knows? We could see more money or more assets coming into the team. So maybe that's why Nate just decided, let's try 2 years and see what happens from there.
yeah, and you also got to think Natchez is only 25 years old, so he's still got plenty of time left in the league. So if he wants to sign a 2-year, I would say almost like garbage type contract, he can do it.
Yeah, I mean, he could. I mean, at least he's not doing what Bertuzzi's doing and trying to play for every original six team, which I hope he does.
Yes,
By the way, if what is he on? He's done. Uh, Now he's on Detroit.
Detroit.
He's or sorry, he was on Detroit,
Yep,
Chicago, right?
yep.
Then
Toronto.
Toronto. So who do we have left? We have Boston, New York, and Montreal.
Yep.
So who knows?
He can get it done. He's young enough.
He's young enough. He can do it. You brought up a very interesting name while we were talking off screen here. Konecny, right? Is that how you say his name? Konecny?
Yes,
Yes.
Travis Konecny.
Travis
Yeah,
Konecny. That's how
so
you say it.
he signed what I think is a very inflated deal. I understand that his years make it so that his cap hit is not that bad at 8.75. He signed an 8-year extension. His total value of it is going to be right around 70 million, but he's 27 years old, which I don't think that you're going to get very much production out of him for very much longer. So them extending him for 8 years, 8.75 a year is kind of I think that's out there. I didn't think that they would make that kind of an offer for him, but it locks him in Philly for another 7, 8 years, and
So
hopefully he can keep where he's been.
he's averaged, yeah, the last couple seasons he's hit above 50 points. He had 52 points in 2021, 61 points in 2022, in 2023 he had 68 points. So it's not as if he's I mean he's getting the money that he's paid for, or he's earned. Realistically, it's that term. I have to agree with you. That term might be something that I don't think will sit well with Philadelphia. 8 years. If it were me, I probably would have given him,
I would say four.
yeah, maybe
I think 4 is
4 or 5.
probably a good term. I mean, 27 years old, 4 would put you at 31. I think 31 is a good time to possibly consider moving on.
Does he have a no move clause on that? Or
I'm actually not sure.
because I know, I mean, yeah. So at his age, the 8-year contract, man, that is gonna be rough because that'll take him until he is 36, 36
Yeah,
years old.
that's
Am I
that is
right? No,
a long
34.
no,
Sorry,
no, no. Yeah, 34.
34.
That is a very, very long time to sign somebody, especially when they're going to be at that age. I feel like, and yes, I feel like there's certain players that have been able to perform at a high level at that age. I obviously like Sidney Crosby, Alexander Ovechkin. The list does go on, but I feel like that's not a typical. It's not a every player is going to be able to perform at a high level at that age. So the fact that they did it for 8 years is a little mind-boggling to me. I'm not sure.
Let's
We'll see how it
see.
pans out.
Let's see where do you have the list up? I currently don't have it up. I'll search it up right now. Where he sits on the, yeah, so he's their first line right wing on the Philadelphia Flyers. So I mean they're paying for a first line player, but I'm gonna break away just a little bit here. And just by looking at their team, their only good player, two players really realistically are Sean Couturier and Owen Tippett.
Yeah,
So Konecny, I can't say his name. Forgive me, Travis Konecny. He's
connect me.
Konecny. There you go. He's their third best player. For a team that I don't know what they're doing by locking him up. I mean, if it works out for them, it works out for them. But I would have given him maybe, yeah, 4 or 5 years. That's interesting to me.
Yeah, I think 4 years would have been probably the way to go with that personally.
And then we also had another very notable signing as well. Farabee.
Yes.
That one was a monster signing.
Wait, which one?
Farabee, no, Faber. See,
Favor.
I was just looking at the Philadelphia thing. You're gonna have to forgive me. Chat, those who are watching, type it in the comments. Let me know. I totally missed the ball on that one. Okay, that's how I know you're paying attention. That's how I know you're
We'll hold
paying
him
attention.
accountable.
Hold me
Hold him
accountable.
accountable.
So Brock Faber, he signs an 8-year, $68 million contract with the Minnesota Wild. So this contract begins next season, and he's making $8.5 million.
I like this contract. I like it. He's very young. They understand his skill. They understand that he's probably going to be very good for a very, very long time. If you can lock him up in his 20s, why not? I don't understand why you wouldn't. He's a
They
stud on the ice.
So this is the one thing that I like that Minnesota did, because not many teams do this. So they signed a 21-year-old player who was second in voting, mind you, to Connor Bedard. In all honesty, if you whether you agree with me or not, I think he should have won called the Calder Trophy over Connor Bedard. I think Connor Bedard was a little bit. I mean, he's good, but I think he should Faber should have won.
I think Connor Bedard being out for the majority of the season that he was out, I think that while he was in the league, or not in the league, he's obviously in the league, but while he was healthy, I think that he performed at a stellar pace. But I think Brock Faber, I think,
Should have won it.
oh yeah.
Should have won
And
it.
I think Minnesota sees that with offering him the $68 million contract at 8 years. I think that they are telling him, hey, we understand what you are. We saw your game last year. So here it is. Let's see what you can do. I think that this is a brilliant signing.
Let's hope that this doesn't bite them in the butt, because I will say this: Minnesota has been known to hand out some of these massive contracts. You remember? Okay, let me go through the list of names that they've given massive contracts to defensemen. Jonas Brodin, Ryan Suter, Matt Dumba, who they had to recently buy out and let him go to another team. Jared Spurgeon. Like, they have defensemen on the back end that are getting these multi-million-dollar deals, multi-year contracts, and they're aging, to the point where now they're just too old to play. So with this 21-year-old defenseman for 8 years at 8.5 million, he might actually become a steal of a contract halfway through if he continues producing at the rate he's producing. So I like this contract. I think it's going to be a good one to see. Hopefully he does well. I just don't follow in the footsteps of Ryan Suter and be bought out. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
That's all
Yeah,
I'm going to say.
For sure. Yeah, I think this contract is beautiful. I'm gonna be completely honest. I think he deserves every bit of it.
Yeah, he definitely does. And another signing that we had here was Lindgren, signed
Mhm.
for 1 year, 4.5 million contract with the Rangers. I was surprised about that 1 year contract. I thought maybe he could secure 3, 4 years, but I guess this is more of a prove it contract, just to see where you are next season, because the Rangers have made some significant changes on the back end by sending out Gustafsson, and they have a lot of their hopes riding on their goaltender and the whole drama with Trouba. I don't know when that's going to be figured out, but what can you say about this lingering contract being there for only 1 year?
Yeah, I think I'm on the same page as you. I think it's more of a prove it deal. I mean, 4.5 million, they're not hurting with that kind of a contract. It's the fact that he signed it, I think he kind of lost on it. Um, but I think for the Rangers as a whole, I think it's a good sign.
Good. I think we agree. Now, I'm not even going to attempt to say this next name, but the Montreal Canadiens signed a player 2 years for 2.6 million. If you can say that name, if anybody in the chat can say that name or type out how to say that name, that would be phenomenal. But they sure
Bert.
up a young player. I believe he was drafted not too long ago. He's 23 years old. He was an undrafted free agent October 4th, 2021. 23 points in 95 games. See,
Yeah,
here's the thing. I don't understand that. So maybe you can explain this to me. Players who have 23 points in 95 games, that to me is not a $1.3 million player. That to me
no,
is at best 750K. Well, what's the league minimum? 800K, 850K.
no, I saw a few that signed for about 775.
Yeah, so 775 to maybe nine
No.
950. Like,
Yeah.
if you're not putting up like points like that and you're a young player, you got to earn your keep, right?
Yep.
Because I look at this contract. Corey Perry, who has been in the league for several years, has won a Stanley Cup, has had multiple trophies. Yes, he is aging. Well, probably should retire. He has a $1.4 million contract, right? So,
3 seasons ago.
and yeah, a $1.4 million contract,
Yeah.
right? that's based off of his scenario where he is and what he's been able to produce. But throughout his whole career, like I don't think he had a contract close to a million until the end of his entry level deal. Because don't most players have an entry level 3 years? This
Yeah, I
player
believe
is
so.
a rookie essentially.
Yeah. I believe that everybody has an entry level deal. I don't think he's 1.3 a year. I think
He,
maybe
he's making
just
more
like
than
you, I think
Celebrini.
I,
He's making
and
more than
I don't,
Celebrini.
and granted, we haven't seen Celebrini play in the NHL, so I can't really sit here and say, oh, he's valued more than Celebrini, but man, I've seen a lot of Celebrini, and I think that kid is so good.
He's not $1.3 million good.
No, no, I don't think he's $1.3 million a
Um,
year good. Not at this point.
but I guess Montreal's organization believed that, you know what, I'm going to say his first name, Arbor, and his last name starts with an X. So Arbor X was deserving of bypassing a entry level deal for him and getting a 2 year, $1.3 million contract.
Unless he played in the AHL, which I'm not really too sure on. If he played in the AHL for a few years and they kind of got to see how he plays in that system, I mean, maybe they would feel more comfortable about giving the 1.3. I just don't think that if I was to sign him, I don't think that I am giving him 1.3 personally.
No, definitely not, especially considering he wasn't even drafted. If he's good, great, but I don't think that he should be bypassing an entry level deal. He's undrafted. You come in on an entry level deal, just like every other player. Prove yourself. Now, if you're Connor Bedard or you're Connor McDavid, we know you're going to bring that thunder. But even
Right,
they had entry level deals, right?
right.
So the next two signings, I'm not going to say a thing because there are two very important players that were re-signed by a team that, if you guys can guess who it is, fires a cannon every time they score a goal. Can you tell me a little bit about these two players, Reed, and maybe for fans who don't know what kind of players they are, the styles they bring, or how important this is? Let's explain to them the importance of Marchenko and Johnson being signed by the Blue Jackets.
So Kent Johnson brings a lot of speed to the team. He's very good on a line with Johnny Gaudreau. I think that his total value of 5.4 over 3 years is right on par with what I would have paid him. I think he's very injury prone because he's tall and lanky, but he's very, very skinny. Even in all those pads, he looks tiny. I I like the guy. I think 1.8 a year for 3 years is right around where he should be. He's 21. He came out of Michigan with Nick Blankenberg, same year, same time.
What line does he play on?
Third, I
Third
believe.
line. Okay.
Yep. There's some speculation that maybe he can jump over Boone Jenner and get to the second line, and Boone Jenner would drop down to the third line because they're both playing as left wings
Okay.
right currently because Columbus just doesn't have it. And then Kirill Marchenko, he's an absolute unit. I've gotten the chance to meet him a couple of times, and he's everything that every Blue Jackets fan thinks he is. He broke a rookie record for Columbus with goals scored. He's dynamic. He's very well loved. I think that his skill is certainly warranting of the 3.85 that he is getting over the next 3 years with a total of 11.55. Um,
Oh,
I
he
he
potted
him and
23 goals. 23 goals and 19 assists. Wow.
yeah, I mean for his first and second years, his stats were very good, especially if they pair him, which I don't know if the new coach is going to pair this specific line, but in Columbus, it's a very popular, they call it the Russian line, which is Dmitry Voronkov, Yegor Chinnikov, and Kirill Marchenko on the same line. That line, it flooded other teams every time that they were on the ice, and then they would it's they're this is a good sign for Columbus. This is a very good sign for Columbus. And I think 3 years, honestly, I think 3 years might have been a little Short, I think that they could have done something like 5, maybe 6, and bump that. I would probably leave the cap hit right around 3.85, but for 5 to 6 years, I think that's right where he should be.
Do they have two Russian defensemen?
They have Ivan Provorov and no, they only have one.
Well, they're missing one because if they get the fifth Russian defenseman, they could potentially have what Detroit had all those years ago.
Yeah,
The Fab Five.
and I
Not saying that
and
they're
something
the exact
about
same.
them. I think you know what I think it is. I think it's the fact that they can all speak the same language versus there being a language barrier between English speaking or Swedish speaking or whatever the case may be. I believe Texier, who played on the team last year, just recently got traded to St. Louis. I believe he speaks predominantly French, so there's kind of that language barrier. If you put all of them into all of the Russian speaking players onto one line at the same time, something about that communication is brilliant, and
Yeah.
they showed it last year, and I'm sure if they get on the ice at the same time this upcoming year, they're going to show it again. That combo is unstoppable.
I think it also adds to, the team's chemistry. It allows them to, not saying that teams will leave players out because of a language barrier, but having somebody that might know your native country or know where you've grown up or kind of know your native tongue, it's easier to be able to bond with them, mesh with them, and they have connections with everybody else on the team, right? It's all about fostering those type of talents and making them feel as a part of the team.
Well, and
Uh,
I think that a lot of people don't understand that, like, it's yes, these guys are playing hockey, but at the same time, think about it in your personal life.
yeah,
If you're at work and there's everybody is speaking one language except for you, are you going to be able to do the same as everybody else? Probably not,
no, it'd be very
because you're
difficult.
not going to understand what's going on or the communication that's going on between everybody else. So you're going to be just kind of sitting here wondering what's going on. So if you get everybody on the same page, I think that's a good step.
Yep, I agree. I totally agree. And you know what? I am going to, man, I don't know if I want to say this, but you guys can clip it. I'm going to be watching a few more Columbus games this year. I'm excited.
Let's go.
I'm excited. I'm going to be watching a few more Columbus games. And you know what?
Speaking of which, they just for full season ticket holders. I don't know if anybody's watching is a full season ticket holder for Columbus, but the Stadium Series just went live today. If you want to buy your tickets, full season ticket holders.
I don't know if I could do all that, but I'll definitely be watching them for sure.
Oh, I'll be there.
I'll definitely
I'll
be
be there
watching them. So, well, maybe you could do a live show. Who knows, chat? I mean, he might be able to do a live show from the actual Stadium
from the
Series.
Horseshoe in Columbus.
That would be cool. I might fly out for that. I'm not sure. Another notable extension that I see here is Luukkonen signs 5 years, $23.75 million contract with the Sabres. Kind of shores up their goaltending issues over there because he's actually a pretty good goaltender. He's not, I mean, look, when you're playing for Buffalo, the last goaltender that played for Buffalo that was even worth anything was the future, or not the future, the destined Hall of Famer, Dominic Hasek. Now, I'm not saying Luukkonen is Dominic Hasek, but it's tough to win in Buffalo as a goaltender, right? Now, I'm not going to discredit that also Ryan Miller was a very good goaltender for Buffalo until he left. Being in Buffalo, being able to backstop that team can be a very difficult challenge. He went 27, 22, and 4 with a 2.57 goals against average and a 910 save percentage, with 5 shutouts in his 54 NHL career games. I think that's a pretty good stat line for him. So, what do you think this means for Buffalo locking up this goaltender?
You know, I actually really like this signing. And I'm going to apologize to all 7 Buffalo fans, just like I said last podcast.
No love lost there.
No, I don't mind too much if they get mad at me. I like this signing. I like instilling confidence in your goalie and saying, hey, you know what? We saw your numbers. We've seen what you can do, and we'll give you what you're worth. And I really do think that 4.75 is a good contract for him, especially at 5 years. 4.75 a year, 23.75 total. I think that's a very good
Good contract.
evaluation for. Yeah,
A good contract.
I think it's perfect for a goalie because it doesn't if let's say it doesn't pan out in 2 3 years, it's not going to be hard to offload that.
So I got a question for you. random question.
Okay.
Give me a high number and a low number. What is a good range for a goaltender to be paid? Because now we see some goaltenders or what Shesterkin can easily make $10 million, $15 million if he wanted to. But what's a good average number for a starting goaltender?
For a starting goaltender, I think I've always kind of looked more at like save percentage. So if you're above like 900 on your save percentage, I think you're worth probably 5 to 7, I would say. I think low end, it depends.
Because that save percentage
I
is
would say
also
I would say
impacted by the
any
defense, right? If you have a
yeah, I
bad
would
defense,
say
it's terrible.
right, and that's why I think that if your save percentage is much below, I would say like 875, I would say that you're probably dipping more into like the 3 to 5 or 3 to 4.5 range. I think that's a reasonable amount. I think there are exceptions to the rule. I
Right.
think Swayman is a very clear exception. I think that Bobrovsky is a very clear exception. I think
Well, nobody thought that when they signed that 10-year, $10 million contract
yeah,
for Bobrovsky. I mean, he didn't really own up to that contract until, well, recently. He hasn't
it
owned up
paid
to it.
dividends. It has paid dividends for him though. They won themselves a championship. Um
Don't remind me.
I also think that there's a few others that I would say are exceptions. Dallas's goalie Ottinger, I think that he's probably an exception. I would give him more 7.5 to 8. I think that he's very well worth it. And then Vancouver's goalie, his name's slipping my brain right now.
Thatcher Demko.
Yes,
Yeah,
Thatcher Demko. I think that he's also somebody that I could probably put him near the top of the goalie list.
and
I don't
here's
think
what's
that
interesting.
anybody that if you're in the bottom third of the NHL, I don't think you deserve anything above five.
See, the
I'm
thing is
just gonna
that
be honest. There's a reason why your team's in that area, and I feel like that I would say you're 90% of the reason why the puck doesn't go in the net. And I think that your one if your goalie tandem is the reason why you guys are in the bottom third, obviously defense plays a huge factor in it. But if your goalie tandem is one of the main reasons, I don't think that you deserve a huge contract. I think Luukkonen's contract is right around where it should be.
excellent. I think we'll see what happens in Buffalo. I mean, hopefully they don't get lit up because I think he's a good goaltender. He's done his part considering he's playing on Buffalo. It's interesting that you also mentioned that Thatcher Demko. That's a goaltender that definitely needs to stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, I
Yeah.
fully agree with you. He's worth all the money. But there's no point in paying a goaltender who's going to be consistently injured
Yeah.
and not able to play for you. There's no point
I guess mainly what I meant was that yeah, if he's healthy, I think his skill level is warranting of
of
huge
that money.
contracts. I don't think I mean it's just like yeah. I mean it's hockey, it's a very physical sport. I've seen on several occasions where not only do I think it's physical, but I think it's mentally taxing while you're on the ice. So I feel like or I've seen many times where like Columbus's goalie, Elvis Merzlikins goes off the ice after the first period and says that it's just an illness. I don't think that that's really an illness. I could be wrong. I'm not in the building. I don't know, but I understand probably where if you're getting lit up in the first period and you're coming off, I would probably say it's an illness too.
Columbus needs to go for that Nashville goaltender, Askarov. That would be
Columbus needs anybody that's not the two they have.
who knows. Who knows? I mean,
That's not true. I really like Daniil Tarasov. I think he's wonderful. We're getting kind of off topic here, but I
yeah,
think Daniil Tarasov's awesome. I've met him a few times as well. Elvis Merzlikins, I think that his contract is very inflated for what it should be, and
how much
his
is
production
Tarasov
is
making
very
right
low.
now? Would Tarasov be
Not a lot.
not a lot, but so let's just say he went through a contract extension. Would it be comparable to like an in from Buffalo, based off of kind of like where he's at, or is there
I think
more
he would
room to
get
grow?
less.
Less.
I
Okay.
think he would get less than Luukkonen. I don't think that he would get 5 years, and I do not think he's getting 4.75. And not that his skill is not warranting of that amount. I don't think that they have enough film on him. I don't think that they've played him enough to be able to warrant him that 4.75. I just don't. Mainly because last year a lot of the hype right before the trade deadline was Elvis versus Lincoln's wants out of Columbus because he's not being a number one goalie. But what I don't think what he realized is that he was being a number one goalie. But you can't have another goalie on your team that you're paying good money to. He can't just be sitting there every game. You have to get him in there at some point.
I agree. I agree. Continuing on with extensions. It's not confirmed, it's not signed. But Leon Draisaitl, camp and the Edmonton Oilers, they are talking. At first, it was reported that he might just seek a 3 to 4 year extension with the Edmonton Oilers. It almost broke my heart. But there's now more rumors that he wants to sign a 7 to 8 year extension, staying with the Oilers, and potentially in the range of 12.5 to 13.5 million. So not, or 13.25. So not quite Austin Matthews money, but enough money to help the Oilers. I mean, it's going to be a large contract. The Oilers are going to be in essentially cap hell if Draisaitl and McDavid and Bouchard are all, taking these contracts. But that's an extension we've got to watch out for, is the Draisaitl extension and how that affects the team moving forward.
I mean, you got to think connecting, like as we recently talked about, he just resigned for 8 years and his is 8.75.
Yeah.
How much are they going to invest in Draisaitl? Because McDavid, how much longer does McDavid have left on his contract?
Next year.
So that's a huge problem. You want to pay Draisaitl 12 to 13. McDavid's he's going to have to command that kind of number as well.
Yep. So
that's a big contract. I don't think that contract gets done. I don't think 7 years of that amount gets done. I would say probably 4.
Here's what they're projecting. Okay. During the playoffs, they were projecting that the Edmonton Oilers' 3 core players, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Evan Bouchard, would all sign for a combined total of $40 million. Just between those.
Year?
No, like just between those 3. Their salaries would all add up to $40 million.
Like per year?
Per year averages would all total $40 million. Yeah. So they would take up they take up 40% of the cap, that's for sure.
So we're going down the street to get the local high school to play for Edmonton, or what? That's a lot of money for 3 guys.
That's a lot of money, but the projection is cap will go up. So maybe some of these teams that are signing extensions, Philadelphia Flyers, might not be affected by that 8-year deal that they signed Travis to, right? If the cap goes up, then maybe that's an easier contract to unload. But with the Draisaitl extension, there's a potential chance that Draisaitl is I'm going to play devil's advocate here, okay? Draisaitl $13 million, Connor McDavid I think will definitely command $15 million.
I would say almost even higher than that. I would say 15 to 18.
I think he'll go max 15 because I think the CBA doesn't allow him to go past a certain number.
Oh, does it not?
Yeah, so I think the max contract that he could get, don't quote me on it, would be 15, right? So let's just say Draisaitl at 13, Connor McDavid at 15, and Bouchard probably 10 million. 8 to 10 million.
Say 8 to 10.
Yeah. So with those 3 contracts, plus we've got the Zach Hyman contract, which is a steal of a deal. He's being paid $5 million or 5.5. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, his contract. Kane's contract is going to be coming off the books in a couple years. Matthias Ekholm, the contract is up. So we'll have a good roster. It's just, that's our core. We have to develop that way. Kind of the same way that Pittsburgh did, right? Sidney Crosby, he's another person we got to talk about extensions. He hasn't signed a brand new extension, and there's, talks and rumors, and maybe somebody on a channel might have posted where Sidney Crosby could go to, but he is potentially not signing a contract or extension in Pittsburgh. But when they first signed him, it was Malkin, Crosby, Letang that commanded top dollar. Those 3, right? And Pittsburgh built a championship team around them and built teams that were successful. So the Oilers might be taking the same route with that Draisaitl and extension, and potentially McDavid and Bouchard extension. But I mean, who knows? We'll see how that pans out, and they said in the next couple days they'll bring out that information. But all we're hoping for is an extension at this point, right? Because the Oilers losing a player like Draisaitl, same way like Pittsburgh losing a player like Crosby, or Columbus losing a
I'll
player like Goudreau, right? Actually, Fantilli.
center. Ooh,
You
okay,
lose a player like that, right? You don't want to lose a, a star player or a core piece of your roster. So
right.
I don't know. At the end of the day, we'll settle. If it's 3 years, great. If it's 7 years, even better. We just want a contract extension and not.
You know what I think should happen is the trade that me and you had spoke about off air.
Yeah,
Uh, I still think, hey, anybody in Edmonton, send over Evander Kane, send over Cody Cece. We'll give you Patrick Laine and a first. We'll retain half his salary. I think that's perfect. I
I
think that's the best of both worlds for
you
both
have
teams.
no disagreement with me. Okay, I would make that trade in a heartbeat. But then again, I play a lot of NHL 24. Okay, by the
Yeah,
way, great game. This is not sponsored by EA. By the way, I'm just letting you guys know. NHL is actually a really good game. And by the way, if you have played NHL, drop it in the comments. What's your favorite thing about the game and how could the game improve? Again, not sponsored by EA. Just saying, I love the game. And I think
great game.
if the Oilers could, I think the top priority right now for the Oilers is getting those extensions done. The new GM Stan Bowman
Heading Edmonton on fire right now.
he's setting Edmonton in is divided, right? So he's fighting off all the backlash from being hired, and the one thing that Stan Bowman can do to really solidify opinions of people in Edmonton is to get this Draisaitl contract done, to get this McDavid contract done, to get this Bouchard contract done, because we don't want to see what happened in Tampa Bay to Stamkos happen in Edmonton, right? That would be absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, we saw that last episode where Stamkos leaving. Tough break.
It
Tough break.
it would be terrible. Are there any other extensions that? Oh, actually, I don't see any other extensions. But there is a little piece of side news, if you want to know. Eric
I would
Stahl
love to.
is signed by the Hurricanes for a 1 day contract. They're going to be
Yes.
retiring his number. The great Eric Stahl, he's played with Carolina, is the Stanley Cup champion,
Mhm.
and I'm excited to see that. I think he deserves it. He has been
Much
a great player for many years, and yeah, I'm happy to see that. So nobody's going to be able to wear the number 12 in Carolina after he retires.
good. I think it's much deserving. I think he's given a lot to that, or he gave a lot to that organization. I think it's very deserving.
Exactly, and I'm happy for him. Man, I wish would have been able to have my number retired. Could you imagine having your number retired in Columbus? That would be insane. That would be
Oh,
insane.
I would lose my mind. I would lose my mind.
How do you plan for a party like that? We'll talk about that on the next episode. How do you plan for
Yes.
a retirement party? All right, now the fun conversation. Are you ready for it? We're going to be
Very.
talking about point totals. Okay, we're going to talk about who is going to have. We'll project who's going to have the most goals. Okay, we're going to project who has the most assists, and then maybe we can do points. But before we do that, let me say that the most points last year was 144 by Nikita Kucherov. The most goals last year was 69 by Austin Matthews, and the most assists Nikita Kucherov is 100. Who do you think is going to be number one this year for goals?
So
Let's start with goals.
for goals, I'm gonna go right back to Austin Matthews. I think he's the best shooter in the league, and I honestly I don't even think it's close. I think that Austin Matthews puts himself into situations where it's wide open, and you can really see it if you look at an overhead view of the game, where he will not call for the puck if he doesn't think he has a shot. I think that he's far and beyond. I think he's the best goal scorer. His shot is mind blowing too. I don't know if you've seen it. He
I've
almost
seen it.
pulls his hands in towards his body just so we can get that little bit more bend out of his stick. It's just a thing of beauty.
Kind of reminds me of the classic Brett Hall. He would
Yep.
he would do the same thing, pull it into his body, but he would also take the knee and just put
Bend it.
every ounce of his body into that
Yep.
slap shot. I'm gonna for goals. I think I'm gonna go a little bit safe with this one. I think Philip Forsberg.
Really?
I think Philip Forsberg. Now that they have Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault, adding them to the power play unit, that
I can
dynamic.
see it.
Now he may not play with them all the time, but just having the ability to have those type of playmakers on your team, along with O'Reilly, like he had 48 goals last season. I'm looking at this right now. He had 48 goals last season. So he wasn't that far off from Austin Matthews, 20 goals. I get it, but I think
Yeah, but like, who else was close enough to Austin Matthews other than
Sam
like
Reinhart,
McDavid?
57, Zach Hyman,
Yeah.
54, and Nathan McKinnon, 51, right? So I think I'm gonna go with the dark horse here, and I think it's gonna be a little bit of a safe dark horse to pick because of the additions that Nashville made. I think Philip Forsberg will be number one in goal scoring next season, and Austin Matthews can be number two, Nathan McKinnon number three. That's how I would see goal scoring.
Oh, I didn't give you my second and third. I'll do Austin Matthews, I'll do Forsberg, and then I'll do the guy from Florida.
Oh, Reinhardt.
Yeah, I'll do
Okay.
Sam Reinhart as third. I like that top three.
Quietly putting up 49 goals last season, Artemi Panarin. Panarin. I
Oh,
can't. I can't speak right now.
I have my top three for points. I'll tell you, a little sneak preview. He's in
Okay, a sneak preview, guys. You heard it here first. We're getting an
it.
exclusive from Reid. All right. So for assists, we'll get to the assists and then we'll get to the points. Nikita Kucherov had 100. Connor McDavid had 100, which is crazy because I think the NHL celebrated Connor McDavid's 100-point season more than they celebrated Nikita Kucherov's 100-point season. I don't know about you, but I saw a lot more reports
Oh,
of
I
Connor
agree.
McDavid. Nathan McKinnon was 89, and then Quinn Hughes at 75, Panarin 71. So this season, with the artillery that Edmonton has added, I think it's going to be Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Evan Bouchard. No, Evan Bouchard would probably be fourth. I'd say Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and yeah, let's go with Nathan McKinnon. I don't think Kucherov is going to be at the top three this year for assists.
I'm gonna do. I actually think completely different. I
Okay.
think it'll be McDavid, Kucherov, and then yeah, I'm gonna go with Panarin. I like Panarin a lot. I think that he's so talented.
Okay. Points. Who are your
Okay,
top
so
three? Last three
my top
or
three.
last season? Sorry,
I,
were Nikita Kucherov with 144, Nathan McKinnon with 140, Connor McDavid with 132.
I'm gonna do uh McKinnon, Kucherov, Panarin.
I think you should put some respect on Connor McDavid's name. Yeah,
I
I think that
There's a
offends
lot
me.
of star power in that building. I something about Panarin, man. I really like him. He's so good.
He's phenomenal.
So I'll do. Yeah, I think I'm comfortable with my team.
See, I think it's gonna be Connor McDavid. Here's what surprises me: Nathan McKinnon in Colorado. He's just a beast. He's just destroying teams single handedly. Yes, he has Miko Rantanen.
Year in
Yes,
and year out.
yes, exact year in and year out. So I'm gonna have to go. Nathan McKinnon will be third on this list. Connor
Okay.
McDavid, I think, is gonna be number one because now he has Jeff Skinner. Now he has Victor Arvidsson. He has Zach Hyman.
Who
He has
who are we putting it to here, Sam?
huh?
Who are we putting it to here?
Number two.
Oh, don't you be putting another Oiler up there?
No, I'm not gonna put in. I think Drysdale would be either four or five.
Okay, I could take that.
Number two.
Tough.
I'm gonna go with a wild card pick here.
That's my Panarin. That's my Panarin, Sam.
I'm gonna put Austin Matthews.
Really?
Yep. I think I'm going to
I
put
don't
Austin Matthews as number 2 because
I don't
I mean,
see
he had
him as
100,
much as an assist.
but he had 100, he had 107 points. The majority of them came from goals, right? Toronto
Yeah.
has added defenders that can now move him the puck quicker, right? So now that
Yeah.
power play unit is a little bit more mobile and versatile. Now the space opens up, right? Before Toronto didn't have that ability to really push out the puck, but now they're going to be pushing out the puck. Marner's on a contract here, so he's got to play lights out. So Marner is probably going to be feeding Austin Matthews the puck a lot more. John Tavares,
Or he or Marner takes the spotlight for himself because he is on a contract year.
well, I hope he does, but even if he does take the spotlight for himself, he's got to get the puck from somebody, and Matthews will give him that puck, or Tavares will
Yeah.
give him that puck, or Nylander will give him that puck, right? So I'm gonna go with the dark horse here, and I am going to actually, you know what? Let's go Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, and Austin Matthews. Let's do that.
Okay.
So 1, 2, 3. That's how I'm gonna go. Nikita Kucherov 4, and I think Draisaitl will be 5. Then we'll see Pastrnak and Rantanen and all them. But
Oh, Pastrnak, I forgot about him.
David Pastrnak. So
Oh,
here's the thing about Pastrnak. I think this season with
he's
the
old.
goaltending change that Boston made, I think it's going to be tough for Boston to outscore their problems, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah.
there might not be as many high scoring games in those games that they play, mainly because they probably will have to play a little bit more defense than
Yeah.
they traditionally would. That's just my opinion. I don't know if that could be the case. Who knows?
No, I'm right there with you. I'm
He
right
could
there with you.
be.
I think the goalie they picked up from Ottawa and Corpusalo, I just think
He's gonna
they're gonna really have
he's gonna
to
bleed
save
goals.
him.
He's gonna bleed
Yep.
goals. He bled goals in Los Angeles. He bled goals in
Yep.
Ottawa. I mean, he's going to bleed
Bled
goals
goals in
in
Columbus.
Columbus. So I don't. Here's the thing. I like Boston, but I don't think Boston has the ability to outscore their problems. Not to mention they also added Elias Lindholm. So Elias Lindholm is if they do score, Elias Lindholm's going to take some of those goals away from David Pastrnak. Because realistically, Boston last year their biggest threat was Pasta, right? So that's why he got
Right.
a lot of the goals. I don't project him to be in the top 5. So we'll see what happens. Now here's a little trick question that I have for you. Okay, and I hope you're ready for this. This is something that when we've done the forwards, well, we can't disrespect the defenseman. Okay, so
Okay.
the top defenseman in terms of points last year was Quinn Hughes, followed by Cal McCarr. So it was 92, 90, 85. Hughes, McCarr, and Roman Yossi, followed by Evan Bouchard at 82, and then Victor Hedman at 76. I'm going to give you the option to go with your top 5 point getting defensemen. Let's go with the points first.
Top 5?
Top 5 point getting defensemen. I'm going to tell you right now, Bouchard is definitely going to get more than 82 points next season.
I don't even know if I have a top 5. I like Quinn Hughes. I like Quinn Hughes a lot. I think he's number 1. Let me pull up the NHL website.
Number 1. Okay, while you do that, I'm going to tell you Quinn Hughes is probably not going to be number 1 this season.
Why?
Roman Yossi has a lot more players to pass to.
Yep.
So I think our top 5 will probably be Cale Makar is number 1.
Okay.
Roman Yossi is number 2. Evan Bouchard at number 3. Quinn Hughes at number 4. And Adam Fox at number 5.
I'm gonna.
I know you don't like those picks, but this is where we get into the
I
debate.
don't.
This is where
I
we get
don't.
into that debate.
I don't at all. Um,
Don't say Eric and Branson because if you do, I'm ending this right now.
no, I don't think Eric Branson is the best on Columbus. I'm going to be completely honest. I think Zach Werenski's light years ahead of him. Last year, he had 57 points. I think he's light years ahead. I like me personally. Quinn Hughes is first. I just think that he's dynamic. I think he's a playmaker all around.
I agree.
Um, I like Cale McCarr, but I don't like him at second. I want to see Adam Fox get up in a second, and I want to see Cale McCarr be a third.
Okay. Okay.
That's fourth and fifth. I like Rasmus Dahlin, but I don't think. You know what? Give me Eric Carlson. Put him at 4,
Erik Karlsson from
and
Pittsburgh. Wow.
then let's do. I like Heiskanen a lot as well.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about Heiskanen. Uh,
I mean, he only had 54 points last year in comparison to the 92, 90, and 85, but I really think that he's going to take a step up.
all right, who's gonna get the most goals? Which defenseman scores the most?
Oh, I'll go with Kale McCarr. I like what they're doing in Colorado.
Roman Josi had 23 goals last season. Cale Makar had
Yep,
21.
I think Kale McCarr takes a step up.
Okay. Mackenzie Weegar had 20 goals for Calgary last
That's
season.
yeah.
What? Wow, that's not a name I would have thought that was there. Um,
No, I didn't either.
I think Brady Shea is going to step up,
Oh,
and he's going to get a few more goals this season.
supposed
Uh,
to be on a new team. I didn't even think about him.
yeah, I don't doubt seeing Nashville and their players being at the top of the points leaderboard and goals leaderboard next season because they have a very dynamic superstar team. But in terms of goals next season, I think Evan Bouchard might slip in terms of goals, so he won't hit 18. I would probably put Cale Makar number 1. Uh, I put Darlene up there as well. Fox, I think, will get some more goals. So maybe Cale Makar, Adam Fox, Rasmus Dahlin.
Gonna leave Yossi out of this.
Brady Shea, Yossi. Well, the thing is, the reason why I'm kind of leaving Roman Yossi out, I think Roman Yossi might still be in the top 5 for goal scoring defensemen. I just don't see him having to put in as many goals this season.
Yeah, to keep him
That's
in
my
it.
only thing. I just don't see him or Brady Shea having to put in as many goals as they do.
Yeah,
Because I'm evaluating these teams based off of like who do they have up front, right? Who's essentially going to be their primary goal scorer? Like for Calgary, Jonathan Huberdeau didn't have a good year, so that's why Mackenzie Weegar did put up 20 goals. But
right.
Rasmus Dahlin, who in Buffalo is really going to score? I mean, Rasmus Dahlin is probably your
Big
best bet,
fans.
right? That or Owen
Right,
Power, like
fans.
those are your two best. Jason Zucker, who knows? Evan Bouchard, I don't think he's going to. He has a massive slap shot, so he might actually pot a few more goals on the power play. Uh, Adam Fox, New York has an offense that is stellar. Quinn Hughes, I think he'll average about the same 17 because Vancouver's got a much more improved offense. I'm looking at teams that have defensemen that are relied heavily on scoring goals. And that's why I can't put Roman Yossi up there. That's why I go Cal McCarr because Colorado is good, but Cal McCarr drives a lot of the offense. Like when they break out of their
Yeah,
zone, it's either Nathan McKinnon carrying the puck or Cal McCarr,
right.
right? So um I think it's going to be Cal McCarr number 1 next season in terms of goals. Now, it's different when we go over to assists because assists Quinn Hughes 75 points, Cal McCarr 69 points, Evan Bouchard 64 points, Victor Hedman 63 points, Roman Yossi 60 points. So we have about 6 players that were in the 60-point region. The additions
I'll take my top 5. I'll do Quinn Hughes, Cale McCarr, Victor Hedman, Roman Yossi, and then Adam Fox. In that order.
Evan Bouchard,
Oh, stumped him.
Evan Bouchard, Cal McCarr, Quentin Hughes, Roman Yossi, and Miro Heiskanen.
Okay,
Yeah,
I can respect that.
I'm gonna pick Miro Heiskanen to put up. I mean, he only had 9 goals, but I watched him all through the playoffs, and he is a dynamic defenseman. If he wants to move that puck, he can move it. So he's gonna be my dark horse 5th pick. I did knock out
Riley.
Dobson,
Oh,
Morrissey,
Morgan
Riley.
Riley, I like a lot too, and I hate Toronto, but I like Morgan Riley a lot. A lot. He's so good.
All right. Well, now we're gonna go into the very interesting one. This one I think is gonna be a little bit harder to predict, but if you can predict it, I'm gonna be ecstatic. So, Alexander Georgiev from the Colorado Avalanche had 38 wins last season. Connor Hellebuyck had 37 wins, and Sergei Bobrovsky had 36, tied with Shesterkin, who also had 36, and Stuart Skinner, who also had 36. So, to everybody else that said Stuart Skinner wasn't a top 10 goalie, he had the wins, okay? So, who do you think, which goaltender do you think this season is going to have the most wins? And how many would you project?
I don't think anybody gets the 38. I'm going to be honest. I don't think anybody gets the 38. I would like to do. Are we doing? Do you want this to be controversial? Who I
Controversial.
really feel?
Controversial.
Okay. Okay.
Piss off
I'll
as many
put.
fans
I
as you
want.
can.
I like Jake Ottinger. I'll put him at 36.
Okay.
Connor Hellebuyck, just because he's a unit. I'll put him at 34. I'll do Bob at 34. I'll do Shesterkin at 32. And I'll do Saros at 30.
My man, you just gonna leave Stuart Skinner off the list?
I am. I understand that he had a great Stanley Cup playoffs.
I'm ending this right now. I'm turning this off.
Oh, calm down.
No, okay,
No,
that's
that's who
interesting.
I can go with, and I want to put. I put Skinner as 6, honestly.
I don't think Bobrovsky is going to be in the
Swayman
top
only
3
having
next year for wins.
Swayman only having 25 wins is kind of wild. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Well, I mean, he did do the split, right? Olmark and Swayman
Yeah.
were a pretty good tandem because, like, if you look at Olmark's numbers, he had 22, right? So they were pretty much on par with each other. Now, Swayman
Right.
might have several more wins this season. We'll see. But my top goaltender this next season, I think, is going to be.
Oh, you're gonna say
Don't.
Skinner. You're gonna say
Don't.
Skinner.
No, I'm not going to say Skinner. I am going to say UC Saros.
See, we're on the same page.
I think UC Saros is number 1.
I don't think he's number 1, but
And
he's in my top 5.
I think UC Saros this season is capable of getting 40 wins. With that team, I think he is capable of getting 40 wins. 100% capable. Number 2 on that list, I will have to go with Igor Shesterkin. And I think he's capable of getting 36 wins again. I don't think that number changes for him. I think he's going to be good. Number 3, I am going to give respect where respect is due, and I'm putting Connor Hellebuyck there. I think he is also capable. Number 4 is going to be Alexander Georgiev.
He drops off.
Yep. Number 5 is going to be
Ottinger.
Stuart Skinner.
I knew he was going to be in your top 5. I knew he was going to be in your top 5.
Here's why. If I'm comparing Dallas and I'm comparing Edmonton,
Edmonton's got a better team. I would
Edmonton has a much better team in front of them than Dallas does. Not saying Dallas doesn't have a good team. It's just Edmonton here's the thing. Edmonton can outscore their problems.
Yeah.
Dallas needs to score and shut the other team down, right?
But it seems like Ottinger does that.
He does that, but we discussed this on the last one, right? If we get quick goals on Ottinger, then you can shut him down. So
Right.
I know it's controversial to put Stuart Skinner in my top 5, but and this
Yeah,
is
you're gonna have a lot of people pissed.
let them say what they want to say. I don't care when they feel as if their goaltender like Sorokin from the Islanders can get them to the Stanley Cup final. Then maybe I'll put some respect on that name. But until then, I'm putting him there. People disregard Stuart Skinner as a great goaltender. I mean, did he have a rough
I
start to
think
the playoffs? I mean, yes, he had a rough start to the playoffs. He's still a young goaltender. Keep in mind, he's like mid 20s, right? So he's still a young goaltender. Him going in a playoff run and a deep playoff run, nonetheless, is a very new thing to him. He doesn't really have the backup goaltender that he's supposed to have. Think about it, when the Oilers were making the playoffs, they had a veteran goaltender in Mike Smith and Stuart Skinner to learn from Mike Smith and work together, right? And then after that, they went out and signed Jack Campbell, who was supposed to be that veteran presence for Stuart Skinner, but he wasn't. And so Stuart Skinner essentially had to learn all this stuff on the fly. And his backup, is no disrespect to Calvin Pickard, but Calvin Pickard is not what Mike Smith used to be, and he's definitely not where Jack Campbell used to be, and he's not any one of these goaltenders that are up there, even Cam Talbot, right? But Pickard came in and helped stabilize so Stewart could refocus, come back, and then continue playing. So I think he's good. His goals against average was a 90 in the season. Playoffs is a little different. I'm not going to talk about that, but I think he has the capabilities of being a top 5 goaltender this season, in my opinion.
I think what a lot of people aren't going to understand about you putting him in your top 5 is that he not only did he do very good in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but he took Sergei Bobrovsky in a very, very hot Florida team to Game 7.
To Game
And
7.
I will stand on this limb until the day I die. Stuart Skinner is the reason Edmonton got to Game 7. I think Florida came out way too hot in the first 3, and I think Stuart Skinner had to really have like a come to earth moment when he was like, okay, you know what, we're not
And
getting
he locked
swept.
it in. The story,
Yeah, and he even in Game 7, his performance was
phenomenal.
a masterclass. It was
The
beautiful.
Oilers just shot themselves in the foot. Let's be real. I'll accept that. But here's the thing: who are the top 2 goaltenders in save percentage by the end of the playoffs? Don't even look it up. Just guess.
Probably Stuart Skinner and Bobrovsky. If I
Okay.
had to guess,
If you were to guess their save percentages, what would they be?
I think for Skinner, I would say like 9-10, and Bob, I would say it was probably 8-9 to 9.
Bobrovsky had a 906 save percentage. Stuart Skinner had a 901 save percentage.
I overestimated Skinner and underestimated Bob.
They both beat out Jake Ottinger and Igor Shesterkin in save percentages.
Yeah.
Right? So playoffs are different. You can, as long as you're hot, you ride the hot goaltender, you can get very far with minimal goaltending or minimal save percentage. But season wise, I think the Oilers have the ability to outscore their problems as opposed to where Dallas, they don't have the talent. I mean, they have talent, but they don't have the ability to outscore their problems.
Right.
All right. So now that we've done that, point totals, and thank you for indulging me on going through the defensemen and goaltenders because I thought that would have been a very interesting look to see
I think it's a very, very good look. Very good look.
where we see. Let's go into. I'm gonna pull up here last season's standings, and we're gonna take a look at where the teams ended up, and I guess we'll project. I'll give you the league standings. I'll tell you who the top 16. Do you want the top 16 teams? Or
Yeah.
okay, I'll give you the top 10 teams. I think or you can pull them up. So
I don't think that last year is going to reflect this upcoming year.
Right.
At all.
Oh, definitely. No, there's going to be a lot of changes. So the top teams, actually let's break it down. Because we have the next segment here is a Stanley Cup favorite. So how about this? Let's break it down with who's our Western Conference top team, the top 3 favorites from the West, or let's go top 4 favorites from the West, and then we'll go top 4 from the East, and then we'll make our final pick. How's that?
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So let's start off with the Western Conference. The top 4 teams in the Western Conference were the Dallas Stars with 113 points, the Winnipeg Jets with 110 points, the Vancouver Canucks with 109 points, and the Colorado Avalanche with 107 points. This season, with all the additions, I think that's going to change. My Stanley Cup favorites coming out from the West are going to be Nashville, Edmonton, Colorado, and I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say Vegas. I think those are my top 4.
I'll go with Nashville. I really want to go with Winnipeg. I really like Winnipeg. And then I'll do Nashville, Winnipeg, and then Pacific. I'll do Edmonton. I'm gonna go Vancouver. I think that's how I think that. I think the Pacific stays right where they're at. Honestly,
Reid,
actually, I think what I really think is I think Edmonton's gonna go over Vancouver.
Thank you. I was about to say, dude, we are on episode 2. I'd like to make it to episode 100, and if that's gonna happen, you gotta stop picking Vancouver, okay?
I'll put Edmonton over Vancouver, but I think Nashville's gonna lead Central, and I think Winnipeg is gonna be second.
Okay, I like that. Going into the Eastern Conference. Here, let me look at the division. I mean, we'll go by division because I guess it'll be easier, right?
Yeah.
Florida was number 1 in their division with 110. Boston was number 2 with 109 in their division. And in the Metropolitan, it was New York Rangers 114. Carolina had 111. I think this season is going to be different. Florida is not going to be. I know they won the Stanley Cup and they have some of the players from last year. I don't think they're Boston. I don't think they did enough. Plus losing their goaltender. No. So I think in the Atlantic, there's going to be a little bit of a shift. So my favorites coming out of the Atlantic have to be Toronto. And wow, Tampa Bay. It would have to be Toronto, Tampa to kind of take over the top 2 in the Atlantic.
I'm even going to go a little bit further than that because they were a bubble team last year in the Atlantic. I think it's going to be Detroit followed by Toronto.
Okay. I like that pick. Detroit. That's an interesting. I didn't even think about that. That's all depending on if they get the proper start. Okay, Metropolitan.
Wait, look at that last place team from last year. Golly.
Oh yeah, I don't think they're making the playoffs anytime soon.
No.
Although they would surprise me if they did make the playoffs this season. They would surprise me, and I might cheer for them.
You know what surprised me? 30 wins. Give me 30 wins. That'll surprise me. That'll shock me.
You guys were 3 off. Not bad. 27?
Yeah, this is professional hockey. You're telling me that we lose 43 games?
San Jose lost 54. I wouldn't even be upset about it.
Why are we comparing? Columbus gets snow. San Jose doesn't get snow.
Okay, you want a team that gets snow? Chicago. They had 23 wins. You beat them.
It's because their star player was out for 6 months. I don't think it was actually 6 months, but Bedard was out with an injury. I think Bedard's in for more. I don't think they lose that
Montreal, 30 wins. And they don't even have a star player.
30. No star player.
I don't know if you're making the case to be a Columbus fan.
One more than no. We're not helping me out at all.
So New York was number 1, 114 points, in Carolina with 111.
Yep.
I don't know if too much has really changed in that division to shift those 2 teams as being the top favorites. I don't think the Islanders really challenged for that. Washington's got only 1 goal in mind, and that's to get Ovi the goals lead. Sidney Crosby's swan song, maybe, but Beyond that, I think New York and Carolina are the top two to come out of that division. So
Yeah, I don't like New York over Carolina. I don't know why. I love Carolina mainly because my favorite player in the entire NHL, including Columbus, is Sebastian Aho. So, I will ride that. I understand they're metropolitan. A lot of Blue Jackets fans are going to be very frustrated in the
very
fact that,
pissed, very mad at you.
but sorry about it. I think Carolina's going to be number one, and I think the Rangers will be number two.
Okay. So now let's stick with the East. Of the top four that we picked, you picked Toronto and Detroit.
Yep.
And
I
New
think
York and
Detroit over
Carolina.
Toronto.
Okay, Detroit over Toronto. So now, sorry, you have Detroit, Toronto, New York, Carolina. Out of those four, who's your Eastern Stanley Cup favorite? Who do you potentially see out of those four going to the Stanley Cup next year?
Carolina.
Carolina. All right. Out of those four, I think New York makes it. I think New York makes it this year because we're all waiting for the Edmonton New York matchup.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be completely honest. Well, I just gave you away my pick for my favorite for next year, but it's going to be a fight. I think to break down why I gave away my pick is I think the biggest hurdle, and it's going to be probably one of the most exciting series of next season's playoffs. The Western Conference Final is going to be Edmonton versus Nashville.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah.
100% think that's what's going to
I
happen.
could not agree with you more. I could not agree with you more. And actually, I have a Stanley Cup favorite, and I'll tell you, it's one of those two teams.
If you pick Nashville,
They're a stateside. I will say that.
all right, let's hear it.
I don't know how you don't. I don't know how. I think that my Stanley Cup favorite is Nashville. I don't know how you don't. I think that they've made so many very, very strong moves this offseason. I don't know how you
Connor
don't pick them.
McDavid.
And that's great. I think he's awesome. There's a reason why his nickname is Connor McJesus. I completely get it. But you're telling me
Connor
that a team with
McDavid.
Philip, yeah. I understand. But you're telling me a team with Philip Forsberg, Steven Stamkos, Marshall So, even Glesta. Oh wow, that was a Brady Shea, Roman Yossi, and a freshly paid Saros. That team doesn't scare you?
Oh,
That's my
it
favorite.
scares me. I think that Western Conference Final will go to 7 games in which Edmonton will win. Maybe somebody in the Central Division can do us a favor and knock out Nashville in the first round and have a really
But it won't
Cinderella dream
happen.
story series. But if I'm going to be completely honest, yes, that team does scare me. But Edmonton has added offense to outscore their
But so did
problems.
Nashville. But so did Nashville. And Saros
Ekholm,
also just got paid, and you just said he's going to be one of the best goalies in the league.
Ekholm this season is going to do what Jonathan Huberdeau could not do with the Calgary Flames. Jonathan Huberdeau had to watch his former team win the Stanley Cup. Okay? He had to watch his former team win the Stanley Cup after spending all that time in Florida. You know who else is in that same scenario? Matthias Ekholm. He was a perennial defender for the Nashville Predators. He is now over here on the Edmonton Oilers with his running mate Victor Arvidsson on the right wing. The two former Nashville stars who were considered core players to potentially take Nashville to a cup didn't happen. It didn't pan out. And now those two are out. Roman Yossi is still there. Philip Forsberg is still there. They added Stamkos. They added Marchessault. They're adding all these other pieces. But this is where everybody talks about Connor McDavid finishing the story. Yes, Connor McDavid has to finish the story. But so does Matthias Ekholm. So does Victor Arvidsson. They've got to finish the story. They've got to close the chapter, and they got to do it. What better time to do it on a revenge tour against your former team where you go play for the Stanley Cup and then go against, I'm not going to get into that story of Edmonton versus New York because I think Edmonton would win that. I think that would be good for
No,
business.
I think Edmonton's beating New York 10 times out of 10.
At 10 times out of
I
10.
really do.
The toughest thing is Edmonton getting past Nashville. Any team getting past Nashville, Colorado, Vancouver, Edmonton, and Vegas. It's going to be tough.
To want it. You're going to have to want it.
Yeah. Those are my top 6 teams in the West. And out of all those teams, I would have to put Edmonton number 1. I would put Nashville number 2, Colorado number 3, Vegas number 4, Winnipeg number 5.
I personally, I have Nashville as my Stanley Cup champs favorite.
I forgot Vancouver. Vancouver would be number 5. Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see at the end of next season.
Number 1 in the league. I will say this. Nashville does not win the President's Cup.
Who wins it?
Edmonton.
And they break that President's Trophy curse? Because everybody who's had a President's Trophy, they are cursed with the worst. Okay.
Yep. I'll put them winning it, and then I'll also put them in the Stanley Cup. Or I'll also I can't put them above Nashville. I really can't.
That's incredibly hard.
I really can't.
I think Nashville.
No, I think Nashville wins. I think Nashville wins now. You're not going to sway me on this one.
I think Nashville wins. I think Nashville wins the President's Trophy. Edmonton wins the Cup.
Okay, so you're going opposite way.
Nashville can have the President's Trophy all they want. I don't care. If they want to be season champions, by all means, be the season champion. I don't care. I want the Cup. It doesn't
matter until you get to the postseason.
It doesn't matter until you get to the postseason. That's where Edmonton has had. Edmonton has history upon history upon history.
Not this team. This team can't finish the story.
But they're learning along the way. Nashville has to look. We'll wait till the end of the season. We'll wait.
You think Edmonton is going to go into Nashville, honky tonk land? You think they're going to go into Nashville with octopus getting thrown on the ice or catfish getting thrown on the ice? You think they're going to be able to do that and walk out of there?
We're going to watch that game, and I think Edmonton will walk in there and walk out with a win. Now, during the season, I don't know. Anything can change, but
I think during the season, it's a 50-50. 50-50. Honestly, I do.
But same thing with the playoffs, right? I think if it's Edmonton versus Nashville on the West,
I think
it's going to Game 7, and it's going to go to the team Nashville that has the greatest generational player to have ever played this game, not named Wayne Gretzky or Sidney Crosby. It has to be Connor McDavid that takes it and steals the show.
We said that last year.
Now you're pissing me off. No, I honestly though, I think that's where Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are like the team is learning from their mistakes, right? So
yeah,
every past.
I think you guys also got rid of a very pivotal part of the team, though. I think McLeod was kind of a big. No, you disagree.
I disagree. McLeod was streaky at best with offense. Now we have a solid third line in which we have Adam Henry, Connor Brown, and Matthias Janmark that know how to shut other teams down and go get the puck rather than sit back and wait for them to take it out of their zone. We have 2 offensive lines that are going to drive the play and drive the puck down the other team's throat. And then we're going to have a fourth line that just rough them up, bang them up against the boards, steal the puck back. We have a defensive core that does have one glaring hole, but I think it's going to be filled by Philip Broberg. CC's on his way out. We have a young player in Matt Savoy who's going to be able to light it up when he comes back to the NHL because he wants to prove himself. I mean, he's a first-round pick from 2 years ago. Yes, Nashville added 2 Stanley Cup pedigree players. They have Philip Forsberg. They have Roman Josi. They have Ryan O'Reilly. That's great. But I think the youth, the experience, the learning that Edmonton has gone through, having suffered a loss of the first round to perfecting. Now they've beaten Los Angeles in the first round. Every year for the last 3 years, they've done it. We've understood after we lost in the first round all those years ago, we've now learned how to get past the first round. Then we went to the second round. Then we got our butts kicked. Then we learned how to get past the second round. Then when we finally made it to the conference final, we got swept. So then we had to go back, lick our wounds, learn from it, come back and beat that third round ghost. Now we lost in the finals. So we're going to lick our wounds. We retooled. We're going to go back and we're going to show the NHL that we learned from that loss. Not to mention, we took on Evander Kane, who nobody wanted, a troubled player. We made him better. We took on Corey Perry. Nobody wanted him, the scandal, but we made him better, and he is now playing for a Stanley Cup. We signed Jake Virtanen to a PTO a couple years ago, and nobody wanted him, but we're like a reclamation city. Now we have a GM who is going to take the entire brunt of not only media from the NHL, but the hockey fans of Edmonton. The pressure is on this team to win, because even if Edmonton doesn't win next season, it's the GM that has to make sure that this team wins.
So would you say it's cup or bust this year?
Oh, 100% cup or bust. If we don't win the cup within this year or even next year. I mean, last year we were supposed to win it, but if we don't at least win this cup this year or next year, I'm going to be completely honest with you, as an Edmonton Oilers fan, I don't see a reason why McDavid stays.
I don't either.
I don't see a reason why Draisaitl stays.
Unless it's, I can see Draisaitl. McDavid, I really can't. I understand the whole, like, I'm a Hockey Canada player. I need to win the cup on a Canada team. I get that. Great, dude. I'm proud of you. But go get you a cup, man. You're a generational talent.
And I
go somewhere, you'll get it.
I'd rather see him win a cup somewhere in America as opposed to all the rumors that I've heard of him going to Toronto. No, I would rather him win that. If he's going to win it for a Canadian team, he wins it in Edmonton.
Yeah.
Gretzky did it. He should do it. And I think.
Yep.
So this is for all the fans out there. I'm not saying Connor McDavid is going to leave Edmonton. I don't want you guys to get into that notion. No, I'm not saying Connor McDavid is leaving Edmonton. This is for you people in the back. Connor McDavid is staying in Edmonton. But if I'm going to be real, it's better that the Oilers start winning now. Because the more you don't win, the less likely you're going to not want to, or the less likely you're going to be able to keep that star player. Edmonton's a place where hockey players want to go play now. I mean, we got Jeff Skinner to come. We got Victor Arvidsson to come. We have free agents that want to come play in Edmonton because we have the two best players in the world. And yes, all these other teams that we're talking about, they all have phenomenal players in their own respect. Whether it's their first place in the league or last place in the league, each team has their own dynamic of players that are considered star players.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's the NHL. You're not getting here by being bad. And no matter what any fan base wants to say about their team, about other teams, whatever, oh, this player sucks, that player sucks. It's in the NHL.
You're in the NHL, yeah. They're doing something reason that we're commenting on, that we're talking on, right? I would be elated if I even got selected or scouted by an NHL scout to play in the NHL, right? These guys train their whole lives to be in the NHL and then go through the season and then win a cup. So Connor McDavid definitely deserves it. I'm not saying that no other player deserves it, but I think this is Edmonton's year. I thought it was Edmonton's year last year. Even with that terrible start of 3-9-1, I thought it was Edmonton's time last year. It's definitely going to be Edmonton's time this year. But, I mean, we'll never know. We'll see what happens. I mean, we can only wait till the season goes through and figure it out.
I want to see Nashville, Carolina.
Nashville, Carolina. That would be interesting to see.
But I think Nashville's taking.
One game I will tell you that I'm interested in seeing is Stamkos' return to Tampa Bay with Nashville.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be watching that one, and then Columbus. Your coach's first game against Minnesota. I saw what he said in his interview. He's like, "Well, I just got fired by them last year, so yeah, I'm excited to play them."
Man, I'll tell you, I saw Marc-Andre Fleury play in person. It was I don't know if you've seen it. So it was on his highlights for last year where he was getting called off for an extra man. went back, dove, and caught the puck mid shot.
Oh, he's always been a great goal. The thing is, he's got such good awareness, such good
Yeah.
awareness. All right, well, I guess that wraps up our show for today. We were able to get through all of these amazing, amazing things. For those of you who stuck around and watched, I really, really, Reed and I really appreciate that. And we thank you guys for all the views that you provided for us on the last video. And we hope that you guys are enjoying our content. If you are, please hit that like and subscribe button. And don't forget to keep that notification bell on so that way you can catch up with all the updates that we have. We're going to be posting a little bit more frequently as we fix our schedules and make sure everything is aligned. But you guys are always more than welcome to comment on the videos. Even let us know if there's a video that you would like for both of us to do, or a team that both of us would cover for you. So never hesitate to drop in comments or likes or shares. That's even more important too, is if you share our content out. Other than that, Reed, I think we did a pretty good job here. We're gonna have a few more conversations. I think this season is going to be a very, very exciting season, and I'm going to make it by the end of this season.
These are
Vancouver
me
will
too.
Vancouver will never be an option or a choice that you ever make, especially against Edmonton. We're gonna work on that this season, okay? And I'll work on loving Columbus a little bit more. Sound fair?
Yes, sir.
All right. To all of you guys out there, thank you so much for joining the GM's chair. Have a great night. Have a great week. We'll see you on the next episode.